So what influence did the Norman conquest have on English literature? Zero. Zero. First of all, the Normans were not very literate people. I mean, they were more interested in warfare and administration than in the fine arts. That's one thing. But of course, they spoke no native English for a very long time. We'd said that for 300 years. And there's nothing in English in those days. I mean, just imagine if only the peasants, if only the peasantry still speaks the language. I mean, those are people who do not write great medieval epics, love lyrics, and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yes, the Norman influence means that there is nothing in English, more or less between, say, 1100 and 1300, even 1350, nothing worthwhile. The only exception here, probably Lorman's Brit, a very crude Arthurian poem in English, a strange mixture, and this makes it interesting between Old and Middle English around 1200. But generally speaking, there's nothing worthwhile in English, say before something like 1350. Okay, so for between 1100 and 1350, not worth talking about. It's and this is very deplorable that we don't have anything in English, because I mean this is the time, say between 1100 and 1300, when European literature is thriving on the continent, predominantly in French and to some extent in German, High German. I mean, Chrétien's romances, incredible. The Song of Roland. Then the Romance of the Rose by Delory and Jean de Meung. Okay, most of all in Germanic, Wolfram's Parsifal, which gave Wagner his ideas later on. Or the Provençal Trouvère and the French troubadours, the German Minnesänger, you name them. I mean, so literature on the continent thriving. In England, wasteland. Okay. Funny enough. So nothing worthwhile in terms of literature to be studied in England in those years. Let's turn about, and therefore we have to have the European context, the literary and cultural context of European literature, because this is being felt then in England or in English literature once it re-emerges in the middle of the 14th century. Most of all, the epics. And an epic is a long narrative poem about the life and death of a hero. We know that. And the epics in Europe thriving. And there are three great matters of European epics, which later on are being felt, are imported into England much later. This is the matter of Britain, everything to do with King Arthur and his knights and table rounds, later on romances, starts as epics, then romance. I'm going to talk about this later. Funny enough, King Arthur, a British hero, is a French phenomenon. Just keep that in mind. The French cultivate that, nobody, except for the Welsh probably, on the British Isles. So this would be the matter of Britain. Then you have the matter of France. On the continent, these are usually stories, epics mostly, dealing with Charlemagne, Aix, La Chapelle, and his European conquests with the Saxons and so on. This would be the matter of France, big on the continent, and the matter of Rome. And if we say Rome, we don't distinguish between Greece and Rome. So everything concerned with Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, ancient times. I mean, so here, those three are the subject matters of a great medieval European continental literature. King Arthur, matter of Britain, matter of France, Charlemagne, a matter of Rome, predominantly Alexander and Julius Caesar. Okay, nothing in English in those days, but this is even more deplorable because there is something going on the continent, which is a revolution in the relation between the sexes. And this is courtly love. And we have to know about courtly love to understand our modern world. Okay? You remember that, I mean, when we talked about women and the relation of women to men in Anglo-Saxon times, probably peace weavers, war spoil, something like that, but certainly not superior to men. I mean, this was certainly not the case. But, however, at the end of the 12th century in the south of France, Provence, a new literary phenomenon emerges. And this is the inversion of gender roles, and we call this courtly love. Here, well, you see that very nicely illustrated in this picture here, yeah? On equal terms, you have a knight and who completed with his lady, and you see there is no typical subjugation of the woman here, quite the contrary. I just want to illustrate it by using one French poem by a Provençal trouvère. In Provençal they are called trouvère, later on in France, troubadour, around, probably written around 1180, something like this, Bernin, the Ventdon, or however you pronounce him. And here you see what is changing. Alas, how much I thought I knew about love and how little I know, because I cannot keep myself from loving the one from whom I will gain nothing. She has all my heart and my soul and herself and the whole world. And when she left, nothing remained but desire and longing heart. Illustration here of a poet who actually cultivated this. You see, the thing is, the woman is put on a pedestal, and the man is entirely at her mercy, the speaker. And if she rejects him, he becomes a very, very miserable man, and he wallows in his misery, getting lovesick and all these things. So that a man stylizes himself at being at the mercy of a woman, this is a revolution I'm talking about. We call this, courtly love in English, we said this, fin amour in French or in Provençal, so in Provençal, Southern French, a language of its own, amour courtois in French, and in German, Minne, some maybe great Minne singers in German in those days. And this is what we have to see. There is an inversion of gender roles suddenly taking place in the south of France. We can say when it was, 1180, something like this, 1185, something like that, starting in the south of France, and then in one generation spreading all over Europe, except England, because no literary language in those days. Explanation. How did this come about and why did this happen in the south of France? There are various explanations. One is that the hymns to marry were important, which means there had always been one woman who was addressed in such like terms, and this was the Virgin, Christ's mother. The Virgin Mary. So did those hymns have an influence then, and was this discourse applied to a woman a knight is in love with? Could be, At least we had something like it. Arabic influence or Islamic influence has been named because during the Crusades, European culture got into contact in the Holy Land, with Arabic culture, Islamic culture, and we know they had something like this, sort of addressing women like that as angelic, superior creature, the man is entirely at mercy with. Okay, this has been named, and it's certainly makes perfect sense. Primogeniture has been mentioned as well, which means, you see, the feudal system, we talked about this, also produced a penniless kind of aristocrat, the knight, the second, third, fourth born, who did not inherit anything, who received a good education, who knew about warfare, and who probably, when he came of age, received a horse, an armor, and was kicked out and roamed the countryside in to search for adventures and support another lord. When he went there to his fortress, castle, whatever you want to call it, there were only women who were superior to him he encountered. The lord's daughters and his wife. And so did this discourse that he had to address the lady of the house in those terms, oh my lady, you're the boss and I'm just your humble servant. Did this have an influence on the lyrics? Maybe. So you see it's a long shot, but primogeniture producing this sort of errant knight who comes to a castle and then encounters the only women he meets there are his social superiors. Courtly love is also associated with adultery a lot, that he actually has an affair with his boss's wife, most of all, Lancelot. Okay, having an affair with Guinevere, not only an affair, I mean, this is a long thing going on. Yeah. Is there an influence? Could be. There's a lot of it. Fact is, it starts in the south of France around the year 1180. And from there, it spreads all over Europe. And one footnote, I mean, don't think that women are any better off because of that. It's a literary phenomenon. It's literary. Okay. That there is a certain life is copying art later on is certainly true, but only among aristocrats. Don't think any peasant woman is any better off because of courtly love. But still, if you open a door, gentlemen, gentlemen, that's exactly the courtly lover. If you open a door for a lady, or if you get up when she enters the room, put a chair, something like this, you're a medieval knight. They invented that. And if you think of other cultures in Asia, Africa, or wherever you go, they don't do that because they don't have this cultural heritage which we have through courtly love today. I even include the Americans here. Okay, this is what I said. In real life, certainly no one better. Women still regarded as daughters of Eve in spite of courtly love. Delilah, Salome, Mary, Magdalene, Bathsheba, or take those ancient women like Medea, Helen of Troy, Xantippe. I mean, so misogyny lived on. And the funny thing is, courtly love and misogyny, there is no linkage between those two. You either talk of women, about women like that, misogynist, or courtly love. There is no connection. Think of Shakespeare. Hamlet, misogyny only. When he talks about women. Misogyny, frailty, thy name is woman, and what he says, and so on. However, Romeo, only courtly love. But there is no connection whatsoever between those two discourses. And this is interesting for us doing cultural studies. Up to the present day, either women talked about like that, or in cheap comedy, very much depreciated in misogynist terms. They can't drive, they gossip all the time, and spend your money, all this nonsense is medieval misogyny. Okay, let's stop here, and we'll take it from here in a second. This, by the way, was the European